Welcome to the Jones Zone, a podcast by Darryl and JJ Jones.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Jones Zone. Today, we're blessed with the presence of Stephen Claus. He's the president of Angela's Waterproofing and Restoration. I thought this was definitely had something to do with real estate, especially after all the rains that we've been involved in here this last few years. So, Stephen, tell us a little bit about yourself. What's the name of your company? Where are you guys located?
Hey, Darryl, thanks for having me. Angela's Waterproofing and Restorations has been in business for about 41 years. We're one of the oldest waterproofing restoration companies in California. Myself, I started off in the manufacturing field, producing urethanes and polysulfides, epoxies, and so on. And about 14 years ago, my business partner, Sean Geiger, and I bought the company off of the Peltiers and been growing the business ever since.
Awesome. And you were telling me your dad was in the business as well.
Yeah, he was actually in the manufacturing of construction chemicals, as they called it back then.
All right.
And he was one of the, pioneers in California. But the big boys, it's hard to compete against, W.R. Grace and Sika and Tremco and all these big guys that are multi-billion-dollar companies.
Tell our listeners and myself exactly what do you do? I mean, I know what you do, but explain it to the audience.
We work on both new construction and retrofit. One side is basically waterproofing commercial buildings, whether it be hospitals, universities, or schools, things like that. Mixed retail facilities up and down the coast. We started off here in Orange County. We opened up an office in San Diego, and we're looking at opening up an office in San Antonio, believe it or not. But we've done work up in Washington, Oregon. Currently, we're in Hawaii.
And you just go and you waterproof the property because just because they build it doesn't mean it's waterproofed? How's that work?
Yeah, you need to protect your investment or the structure. So a lot of times jobs will be specified and we'll get an invitation to bid on the project. So we're competing against dozens of other people. And if we're lucky to win the job, then we'll proceed and procure materials and get a crew going and start our scope of work. It might be one scope, it might be 10 scopes.
For example, where we're at now, this strip mall was built, and after it's built, forgive my ignorance on the topic, but the builders, it's not automatically waterproof. Does every building get somewhat waterproof? Is that not making sense at all?
Like waterproofing, obviously you can't just have plywood on your roof protecting your inside structure, so it's got to be protected with whether it be a hot asphalt or single ply roofing or shingle roofing or a liquid applied membrane. This is an older building, so it probably has an old hot mop system. It's probably been re-roofed once or twice in its life, I'm sure.
So you don't do actual roofing?
We actually do single ply roofing and roof coating and roof maintenance. Okay. So if you had a cap sheet roof up there and you had some leaks and you don't want to spend the money to tear it off and redo it, we can actually put either an acrylic or a silicone roof coating on it, and that'll sustain your life for another 5 to 10 years.
So there's roofs. That's your one of your primary, locations where you do your work, and then there's also the ground.
Then you have, we're one of the few that do a complete envelope of a building, which is roofs, walls, windows, decks, mezzanines, below grade, and even under slab. So you're completely waterproofing it from top to bottom. Some people just do roofing and that's it.
What is the most common issue that you see?
The most common issue I see or hear is below grade waterproofing issues. You got subterranean parking garages or planter boxes. They always tend to leak because if you have poor drainage behind the walls or inside the planters, it builds up and eventually it comes out of a joint or a crack. And that's probably the most common.
Your experience, you kind of know, if someone calls you, you kind of know exactly where to go to.
Yeah, right away I already have a good idea. But it's always good to actually go out to the job site, visit outside the wall and inside the wall if possible to see if there's structural damage by cracking or something like that.
And I'm guessing then they typically will point out the evidence of the leak and then you take it from there?
Yeah, a lot of times you'll see it with the white efflorescence on the ceilings. It's probably been leaking for a few years and they finally say enough's enough. We need to call somebody out here. We've been trying to patch it with our handyman for so many years that now we need a professional.
Yeah, I had a friend of mine that I thought was interesting. He was in the leak detection. This was years ago, but I thought was kind of interesting, and I think maybe not everybody realizes that oftentimes the evidence of the leak is over here, but the actual leak is 30 feet away.
That is 100% correct. It can travel depending on the condition up above. If it's under tile waterproofing, it can enter on the north side and then exit on the south side down below. So a lot of times you have no choice but to demo the whole deck and do it right.
Wow. Any technologies or detectors that you use, a moisture detector and things like
Yeah,
that?
we have a company that we partner up with, Axis Consulting. They do a lot of testing. They do electronic spark tests. They do infrared testing to see where the moisture problems are actually coming into the structure.
Oh, so you can get really accurate.
Oh, yes.
You can pinpoint exactly. You don't have to rely on the human eye.
Yep, that's correct.
That must be hugely helpful.
Yes, it is.
And you guys don't deal with mold, but you recommend that, hey, it looks like you may have mold. How's that part? Does that ever come up?
Yeah, that's true. We do not get involved in the mold remediation. That's just not our expertise, and I don't know if our insurance would allow us to do it because it is a very highly sensitive issue. But a lot of times we'll refer them to a mold abatement company. They'll go in there and fix it. Once the structure is clean and they need some coatings or waterproofing on it, then they'll call us out.
Got it. So any house or building, they all can be waterproof.
That's correct. Whether it be commercial or residential, they can be waterproof. They need to.
And in California, even though we don't have a lot of rain, it's still an issue.
Well, you still have your thermal cycle shocks. You know, you got the hot and the cold, the hot and dry, humidity, wind. I mean, you got UV rays. I mean, everything is tearing apart most components of a building.
Speaking of the components of the building, what usually fails when there's a leak? Is it the epoxy or what is it?
Well, I mean, there's so many different materials used for roofing and siding. You know, they've gone from wood to now, you know, because wood you have to maintain and keep it painted. Now they go to vinyl, and they have their own issues. Then they got these hardy backer boards that are composites made of sawdust, basically.
Oh, yeah.
But in the Midwest, when you use stone and brick, there really is no maintenance. It's just, it lasts forever.
So painting actually there's a practical and utility for painting besides the cosmetics. It's actually protecting the wood. I think it's important for the listeners to know that painting is...
Yep, that is correct. Caulking and painting will seal, you know, any water from getting into your building. Now, paint is maybe 2 millimeters thick, or not millimeter, 2 mils thick, less than the piece of paper you're holding. But you can go with an elastomeric coating, which is much heavier duty, 30 mils in thickness.
And that's on top of the
flexible. Yeah, instead of painting,
Okay.
some people just paint because it's cheap. But if you want to waterproof your stucco building, it has cracks and you got waters leaking through it all the time, then you go with an elastomeric coating, which is 10 times thicker, is way more elastomeric and flexible, and actually stops water from coming in, and that'll last you a good 15 years.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
And they come in different colors. You use it instead of
You
paint.
can have it tinted whatever color you want.
So you come out on new structures and then also when there's an issue. So walk me through a new structure. How would you handle a new strip mall? And you do big stuff. You're not typically doing little houses. You'll do whole condo complexes, or tell me more.
I mean, we can never say no. We actually will do very large jobs, and we also like to help out somebody else that has like a small issue. I mean, we've done jobs as small as $3,000, and our biggest job is over $10 million. But we want to keep our reputation up by being a service company and help them out. But as far as what we would do, it depends. If it's a balcony deck and they want it waterproof, we can show them an acrylic system, we could show them an epoxy system, or show them a polyurethane system, and then give them price options for all three, and then let them choose on colors, textures, and things like that.
Wow, $10 million job. What was that?
Well, right now we got a $10 million job at LAX, redoing all the brand new terminals out there. American Airlines, Alaska, and soon to be Southwest. And then we have another large one in Honolulu for Amazon.
All right.
Yeah, so it's a fun job, but it's tricky with the weather there because of the unpredictable. It's going to rain tomorrow type thing.
And then do you guys? I'm guessing there's a warranty, et cetera.
Yeah, usually an applicator like ourselves will give a 1 or 2 year labor warranty, and then the manufacturer will do a 5, a 10, and sometimes a 20-year warranty if it's a single ply roofing, for instance.
And is there a roof that you tend to like that leaks less than other types of roofs? And on that note, which roof tends to leak the most?
Well, actually, flat roofs, like on a warehouse, they use cheap materials when they build these facilities, like, say, a Home Depot or a Target or something like that. They're large, but they also just have plywood and maybe a little hot mop on there with a cap sheet. Those tend to have problems and leak. But you go to single ply roofing, you can go right over it. And if you want to insulate it, you can insulate it with an R15, an R30 value, whatever you need. And it's pretty simple, pretty easy. There's no smell, no delays. It's just like rolling carpet almost sometimes.
Now, is this something that someone could do themselves?
No, that one you cannot do yourself.
Yeah, it's like rebuilding an engine. I guess you could, but good luck on it working.
Yeah, like at LAX, we're doing the rolled roofing out there, and we have 25 people out there.
Wow. So are there any precautions that you need to take when doing remediation and restoration? Is there a difference between remediation and restoration? Or are those the same?
I think to me they're the same. You're trying to restore the structure back to its original integrity and protect it. Repair and protect is our motto.
It's like you're the police.
Yeah, just about. But just follow the manufacturer's written instructions. If there's a consultant involved, make sure that, you follow his recommendations because he's watching your every move as you're putting it down.
So you talked about the cost. That's really impossible to answer because it's so unique to each job. Fair to say?
Yeah, I mean, on a balcony deck, you can have a brand new deck go anywhere from $10 a square foot up to $30 a square foot. If it's just a reseal over an existing deck, it could be $5 to $10. So it's something they should get in the habit of doing every 8 to 10 years,
So just if you have a building, you just need to have it checked. And you talked about every 8 to 10 years. That's having you come out there, your company come out there, correct?
Yeah, myself, or if they're going to just paint it, there's 100 painters out there. But people like Disneyland, for instance, or Kaiser Hospital, they religiously will recoat an area or recaulk an area or re-roof an area, even though they don't really need to, but they have it budgeted for the last 10 years. So they're going to tear it all off and redo it and then not worry about it for the next 10 years.
How long are these jobs, like the LAX job? How many months or weeks or years is that going to last?
Yeah, well, we've been out there probably for a good 2-3 years, only because they keep giving us new sections of a new terminal because they really like us. And Hensel Phelps is the general contractor out there, and they're a great partner to work with. We just keep rolling from one terminal to the next, and there's, I think, several more to come, which I'm not allowed to say it right now. But
I had heard about how, for example, the Golden Gate Bridge is constantly being painted. Once they get finished, it's ready to be painted again. So literally, I don't know if that's true or not. I like to give facts that are not true here. I guess that wouldn't be a fact. But anyway,
I've heard that same thing before. By the time they're done, they're starting again. So it's that big of a job.
The key takeaway on this is it would be really important to have you come out every 8 to 10 years and just give it a once-over. You do inspections, correct? If there's not a problem, or how's that work?
Well, actually, I probably should back up a little bit. If anybody has a property, they should do annual inspections on their roofs, their walls, their drainage, their planters, whatever. Every year, just take a look, see if anything's going on.
And describe an inspection. You're just thinking a visual look over.
A visual look over. Make sure it hasn't been damaged. Sometimes a deck coating or a parking structure, somebody will have damaged it with either a barbecue or a sharp pallet that cut through it. And, they don't touch it for the next year or two, and water can infiltrate underneath there and cause a large damage to the facility. So it's always best to catch it as soon as you can.
Sure. And then, so do you do that too, or do you suggest the client does it, and if they see something, call you?
Exactly.
Okay. But you don't do necessarily visual, unless they notice water intrusion, obviously.
Yeah, and certain manufacturers call it out in their warranty. If you don't maintain it or you don't call us for the annual inspections, then the warranty's void.
When you say manufacturers of what? Forgive me.
Of the coating or the roofing product or the sealant.
Okay, they'll have a suggested time period to review.
And some of the property management companies that manage a property, they have it in their system to inspect at certain days.
Okay, so we were talking beforehand about a couple of really neat jobs you had. You mentioned one with the Hearst Castle.
Yes.
Right? What happened there?
The Hearst Castle, they got the famous, I think it's called the Neptune Pool or something like that. That's famous. They were leaking approximately 5,000 gallons of water a day for years.
When you say leaking, through the plumbing?
Just leaking into the ground and into the earth. So they had to keep filling it up, and it's expensive.
The pool was, forgive me.
The pool itself,
Got it.
So they were losing their water. So basically, there was a bid request to come out to fix it, and we were one of the bidders that were successful. And it was a very unique project because it's historical. The Randall Hearst built this castle and this giant pool, and they had to remove all the tile first off of the pool shell, get down underneath cement, and then fix cracks and spalls and do injection work, both underneath the pool shell and inside the pool shell. So it was very delicate, and it took probably maybe 3, 4, 5 months of work up there. But that's the same time they had the big fires up there, and they had to evacuate everybody in San Simeon because the fires were coming down. They have animals on the property. They were carrying them away. They told us to go away for about 3 weeks with this pool that was half being restored. They had to also find the original mine back east for the original tile. If you break one, it has to be the same one.
That's the Hearst policy.
The Hearst policy, yeah, and the state of California, because it's a historical society now. So they found the mine basically that made the original tile for them, and they were able to bring out about 100 pieces just in case.
When was that? Do you recall when that was built? Was that the 20s?
I believe it was.
Okay.
Yeah. But we restored this probably, it's been about 3, 4 years ago. Okay. They filled it up with water, and they had 0 leaks.
Oh, you must have been a proud papa.
Yeah, we asked if we can jump in there for a photo op and said, absolutely not.
Wow, that is fascinating. So this has been great. I'm so glad that you could come out and talk about this, because obviously any structure can leak, and this is something that we all need to know about. Tell our listeners, how do we go about getting a hold of you?
Well, since Sunshine put me up to this, you can call Sunshine. No, I'm teasing you. Angeles Waterproofing here in Huntington Beach and San Diego. You can either hit us up at angeleswp.com or just give us a call at 562-941-7676.
Awesome. Well, this has been just great, and I really am grateful for you coming out and doing the show, and hopefully our listeners got something from it. So if you have any questions, everybody contact him and or me, and please make sure, if you found this useful, to subscribe. If you didn't find it useful, still subscribe so we can bring some more shows to you that everything to do with real estate. So again, thanks everybody for listening. This is Darryl with the Jones Zone, and we'll see you next week. Take care now.
Thanks for having me.
Bye. All right.